All right, now we're moving on to the centerpiece of our show today. There was basically no horror love at the Oscars this last weekend, so we decided to give them some love ourselves and imagine what would it be like if the Oscars were only for horror movies. So I think what we should do is work our way from the bottom of our list up. You cool with that?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
The first award we would like to give right now is an award for the best score. And for me, it is going to Halloween. And it's largely because, one, I think the score contributes big time to why this new Halloween has its own vibe while also respecting the work of the original. I think it was absolutely key to have John Carpenter working on that. And I also give it this honor because at the end of every year, I always wind up with a whole bunch of film scores and songs making their way onto my running playlist. And when the combo of the original theme and the new theme kicks in on that playlist, I go into like high speed. There's something about it that just fills me with so much, like, oddly enough, joy and energy. So that is part of the reason why I'm giving Halloween this honor.
Very nice. It was a really, really good year for horror scores. This was actually, I made these notes on this like possible podcast idea so long ago that I'm like, oh, I forgot about that one. But absolutely, Halloween was on my list of possible winners, as was Hereditary, something that the score is genuinely terrifying to the point, like, that's not even, like, that doesn't bother me anymore. But if you put that score on in the dark... Fuck you.
I need to try that.
It's not cool.
I need to try that.
It's very upsetting. Like
I love how you're like, this is an upsetting thing, and I'm like, I need to do it.
Yeah, do it. It's a lot. I would do it when I was writing about Hereditary, just to sort of get my back into the headspace. Get my head back into the space of the film. I would listen to it in the dark while I was writing, and it's so wildly effective. But it is not my winner. My winner should be no surprise to anybody. It is, of course, Suspiria, which I think was a phenomenal debut in the realm of film scoring for Mr. Tom York, of course, famous for Radiohead, a brilliant musician. But there are refrains from that still pop up in my head all the time these months later. I can listen to the track Suspirium, for instance, and have a very strong emotional reaction in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. I love it. And I think it was, oh my God, to take on that challenge, like, the original score from Goblin is so iconic and so firmly sets a tone for the first film that was, to do something totally different the way that Guadagnino wanted to do with his film is a phenomenal feat to accomplish.
Agreed on that. Do you want to take our makeup and FX category first?
Yeah, Suspiria.
I knew you were going to say that.
I mean, we've talked about how obsessed we are with that little video in here so many times.
That's the thing. I had in parentheses as my backups. I was really impressed by the makeup and effects work in Overlord and also Annihilation. Yes. I mean, the creation of Scream Bear is something that I will never, ever forget for years to come. And that includes some other scenes in that movie as well. But
absolutely.
My mind is freaking blown by Suspiria. And there's a whole bunch of scenes where I can't quite comprehend how they really pulled it off. But you're right. I am still obsessed with that featurette of the mirror room scene. I mean, when you look at every single frame and every single movement that goes into effect to pull something like that off, it is astonishing. I feel like oftentimes, yes, you don't want to look at the behind the scenes because you don't want to take away from the movie magic, but that wound up enhancing it. I am in such awe of what it took to pull that particular scene off that add it to the Scream Bear pile because that is something I will never, ever forget in my entire life.
Absolutely. And on top, it's like insane to me that on top of these incredible gore effects and disturbing imagery, what they did with Tilda Swinton is insane.
It really is.
It's insane. And yes, you can tell it's her because it's Tilda Swinton, but I think if you had put a faceless, nameless actor in that makeup, nobody would have blinked an eye. Mm-hmm. They were incredible, and old age makeup is one of the hardest things to pull off.
Admittedly, it took me like a hot second to even realize, and I have a feeling that if if we hadn't been tipped off or she was playing multiple characters and that had just gone completely quiet leading up to the release in my first viewing, I think it would have taken me even longer to actually realize that that was her.
Absolutely. And okay, so like, was it Vice who won last night for this category?
Yes.
Well deserved. They really did phenomenal work. But basically, Suspiria did what they did and then also did insane gore effects.
That is one opportunity I think the genre had to squeeze into the Academy Awards.
I'm pretty upset about that.
I am not surprised whatsoever that Suspiria got no love, because when you consider, the larger Academy, I wouldn't think many of them would just open their arms to a movie like this. But the fact that it wasn't honored for this particular category, I do think is a real shame.
It doesn't surprise me, but it makes me angry because I think a lot of category voters, I'm so sorry, guys. I have the worst Monday brain. A lot of Academy voters, frankly, don't want to watch horror movies, so they don't even get a chance.
Yeah.
And that makes me so mad.
Yeah.
And that's why you'll see something like Get Out peek through, because Get Out is very easy to watch. Even if you don't like horror, it invites everyone.
That is part of the challenge of the Academy Awards overall, whether we're talking about horror or anything else that isn't just, widely accessible or anything that isn't enough of a crowd pleaser, is basically the people in the Academy. Like, if I were in the Academy, I would feel obligated to watch everything and vote on everything. That isn't necessarily the case, and some movies turn some people off, they don't watch it, and then that movie has less of a chance to get voted for. That's just how it works.
Very annoying when you read those, what is it, the Hollywood Reporter interviews the Academy voters.
I know.
It's like, why do we take these seriously?
Those were stressing me out leading up to the ceremony so much, because every single one I got, it made me rethink my ballot, but also for the reason that you just said. It can be very disheartening. And, granted, it's one voter out of thousands, and hopefully others have different mentalities. But I just read some reasoning behind certain picks, and I'm like, this isn't what it's about.
It makes you go like, yes, this is all very goofy and silly.
Yeah,
right.
A little bit. I can't deny that. Moving on to screenplay.
These are not silly awards. These are very serious, and you should all be honored.
Yeah. I'm glad you settled that. Yes. My screenplay pick is A Quiet Place.
Okay, very understandable.
I was thrilled with the script that I got from the actual experience of watching the movie, and then the script came in the mail, and it is a fascinating read. I would have been very curious to read that script before I even saw the movie and get like a feel for it that way, because I'm so curious to know how it would have translated for me when I actually saw it. But that is not an easy film to write, and just the precision that goes into something like that in order to pull it off and in order to get everybody on the team well aware of Krasinski and Co.'s real vision for something like this is something that, again, should be honored. And this was another screenplay, again, that I think could have gotten horror into the Academy Awards, or a win at least. Yeah. But that is not how things panned out for A Quiet Place in the end.
It is not. It was a stiff year I felt for writing, though, in the categories. I didn't find a lot where I was like, what a dumb nomination.
The one place that this movie did get its love, thankfully, was in the sound editing category, the nomination alone. But I did have my hopes pretty high for a potential screenplay nomination and also Emily Blunt.
Right.
Which never happened either.
No. But acting was also incredibly crowded this year. Yeah. The actress categories.
And I will tease that even though I just said that, Emily Blunt might not be on my list. Moving up our pile here.
Snap.
Yeah. Okay. But what do you have for screenplay?
Screenplay was very hard. I get everything you're saying about A Quiet Place. I think it's an excellent demonstration of less is more sometimes. Mm-hmm. And its Annihilation is one of the smartest freaking things ever, and it touches me so much. And the more I watch it, the more I realize how elegant that screenplay is.
Well, technically, we could both win because you could be adapted and I can be original.
That's right. Well, yes, and I also did want to, if I was going to round out my bracket, I think the Suspiria script is phenomenal and should be taught in schools. It's like literature. It's unbelievably dense and rewarding the more you read it. And,
I would be interested in reading that one.
Also, I want to shout out The Endless, which is a fantastic script.
The Endless, yeah. The Endless should be getting some love right now, too.
But
There's a couple of others. I mean, I also wish Revenge had popped up in more of my categories than it wound up doing on this list, but I think it's just a matter of the great competition we had last year.
I know. So all those things being said, even though I am obsessed with Suspiria's script, I think it's Annihilation for me.
All right. Next up is cinematography. You got that one first.
Cinematography, that is another really hard category. So many beautiful films. I'm just going to keep saying it. Suspiria,
Yeah,
oh my God.
I had a feeling you would.
Annihilation, oh my God. I liked the cinematography should not be underestimated in Unsane, which was a
what
very
a good call. I
challenging-
can't believe that didn't cross my mind until you just said it. Oh, not that I'm not changing my
Right.
vote based on that, but you're right. That is well deserving of a major shout out.
Also have to shout out Revenge.
Yes.
Phenomenal. And Mandy, incredible cinematography. But for me, it's Hereditary.
Why am I not surprised? And for me, probably no surprise, but I have to go with Halloween. I will never forget sitting in that room at San Diego Comic-Con when they showed that oneer that they did, and I was floored by it in that room where it clearly was channeling Dean Cundey's work on the original, but also felt fresh and new, and then it never lost any of its magic going into the first theatrical experience I had with the movie. And it's not just that scene. You could look at so many moments in that movie. The opening at the institution, I think, is just freaking beautifully shot with the checkered floor. The kill scene in the restroom is something else. It is so claustrophobic, and really just the colors across the board, the way it captures Halloween night, it just sparks all that magic all over. Michael Simmons, such great work in Halloween. I loved it.
Absolutely agree. I think the cinematography is my favorite part of Halloween. But for me, with Hereditary, and I might have just had this experience that made me go like, oh my God, what Pavel how do you say it? Pogorzelski?
I am not helping you with that.
I'm sorry if that is wrong, and I'm certain that it is. But I saw the first time I saw Hereditary in a press screening, which was very well lit, and the sound is great, and everything was terrifying and incredible, and really ruined my life. And then I saw it.
I love how you say that with such love.
Yeah, I have very, very healthy desires. I saw it again in, at like an AMC theater. I'm putting you on blast, AMC. And it was trash. The projection was so bad that you couldn't see things. Like, you couldn't see her crawling on the ceiling. You couldn't see the people lurking in the background. You couldn't see things that were just out of focus. And that made me realize what he did in that film and how important it was.
I wonder why that happened.
Terrible projection. It happens everywhere. But
that blows.
It just that made the film go from being a movie that, like I said, kind of ruined my life to just something that was like, oh yeah, this is kind of spooky, I guess. His work changes everything.
I'm disappointed to hear that experience.
Yeah.
But I will agree that Suspiria also deserves some love here too.
Gorgeous.
In addition to Halloween.
Did it win cinematography at the Spirits?
Did it?
I think it might have.
I'm curious. Spirit Award winners. It's interesting when you look at the Spirit Award winners and you realize how few of them were nominated in the respective categories on the Academy Awards.
She made a good joke at the Spirit monologue where she was like, and this year they didn't rip off all our nominees.
Suspiria, I see it got the Robert Altman Award, and it's here somewhere else. It also got Best Cinematography.
Yes, and
where Mandy was also nominated.
What was?
Where Mandy was also nominated.
Nice. Well, they were incredible. Again, another name that I am way too horrible to know how to pronounce, Sayambu Mukdipram, who also did the cinematography on Guadagnino's Call Me By Your Name, which is so beautiful.
Yes, it is.
Basically, I'm going to be honest, you guys. I didn't want to give these all to Suspiria. Screenplay and cinematography came very close.
Oh, okay. I'm curious to see if we align on this next one, because I think it might happen. The next category we're going to talk about is Best Actress. And I was very close to going with Emily Blunt because I think her performance in A Quiet Place is something else. Obviously, she got some love at the SAG Awards this year that didn't translate to an Oscar. But for actress, I have to go with Toni Collette. Because specifically when I think about this, because also someone got this in my head recently where I keep obsessing over it, is looking at the Oscar nominations. Yes, you might feel in the moment that so-and-so is deserving of this honor, but what are we going to keep talking about for years and years to come? And, you know, just looking over the past decades of Best Picture winners, there's definitely some that I still revisit and talk about often. But when I look at the list this year in certain categories, it kind of upsets me how many that I think are going to be kind of at the top of my mind for years to come. And in deciding this, I had to go with Toni Collette for Hereditary. I don't think I'll ever forget that performance for my entire life, obviously for some of the more extreme moments that happened towards the end. But I can't imagine being in that headspace for as long as she must have been for a movie like this. It is so deeply disturbing, and it looks physically exhausting to me. And she is so freaking good. I wanted to see her get more recognition for this role, even though everybody that watches The Witching Hour knows maybe I'm not the biggest Hereditary fan out there, but I definitely will isolate specific work that I think is above and beyond some of the competition.
Of course I picked her. She's unbelievable. I honestly, like, even looking at the category we ended up with, and oh my God, I'm so happy that Olivia won last night. Like, oh my gosh.
That speech.
It was the best.
That speech, when she mouth farted into the microphone, I almost didn't recover from that. I was laughing so hard.
I cried. I get very emotional about things like that, and all night I didn't have any Oscar feels, and then she won, and I had all the feels.
All of them.
So cute.
I will say I did have feels when the Black Panther production designer gave her speech, because I think that was one of the best speeches of the entire night.
It was good, but I didn't have honest feels. Like, I didn't cry. I was just like, yay, Ruth. No, not the production. That was the costume. But she was great. That production designer, she should be like a superstar now.
Yeah, you would hope.
There's nothing like, even when I look at the category as it was, which, like I said, was a very stacked category to begin with. I'm sorry, Olivia. I think that Toni Collette was braver and scarier and wilder and had to walk the most insane tightrope I can't imagine. When you're performing in that high of a space, like to such extremes, it takes such finesse not to look cartoonish and ridiculous, and to bring to that a real sense of pathos and keep the audience with you instead of it's easy to act insane badly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I could see that. It's weird, comparing it to Olivia Colman's performance. And that's the challenge, I think, with, let's say Best Actor, Best Actress, et cetera, is, we're sitting here comparing two completely different types of films. And I can definitely see where you're coming from with Toni Collette, but I still think it's like if I were a member of the Academy and I were voting, I would have picked Olivia Colman from start to finish.
Fair enough. I would frown at you, but there's nothing I can do about your free will.
It's okay. People frown at me all the time.
Well, because I don't think that's true, Perri. It's an interesting comparison because they are completely different genres, but they are two performances that are actually both on extra. Like, Yorgos did not make a naturalistic film, whereas if you look at what Lady Gaga did in, A Star is Born, is very natural. Yalitza, very natural.
Glenn Close, very natural.
Yes. These two performances are both on these high cylinders of sort of insane, not how
Melissa
people...
McCarthy is largely natural, but I think they toe the line with her just like semi, I guess, extreme behavior, just a little bit.
And she
but
definitely
it is largely
is
natural.
Playing against type as well. Like, she's embodying a full character there.
They have their moments, that pair. I love them. Oh, it's so hard that we can't give the love to everybody. It's very frustrating.
Well, I do. I just want to say that also some other phenomenal performances this year were Claire Foy in Unsane.
Yes.
Tilda Swinton in Suspiria.
Yes.
And the underrated body work that Dakota Johnson did in Suspiria.
I'm behind all those. We have to move on to Best Actor. Who do you got?
I have a lot less to say about this category.
I'm curious if we went for the same one on this.
Yeah, I don't think that we did.
Okay.
Oh, no, we did not. I would consider that a supporting role anyway, but I choose...
We didn't have a supporting category on our list, so I just blew past all those rules.
I choose Logan Marshall Green in Upgrade.
All right. I think, okay, so when you say Logan Marshall Green and I look at my pick, I think I run back into that whole, they're two completely different kinds of movies, but my honor went to Alex Wolff.
Right.
For similar reasons that I picked Toni Collette. I can't imagine having to put yourself through what he put himself through in that role. And I will never, ever forget just how vulnerable he came across as... Because, we watch most high school movies and the guys are always these, late 20s in real life, strapping jock types, and you think they could achieve anything. And he goes into such a childish place towards the end, like when he's shouting mommy, and it breaks my heart. And the fact that they went that route with that character, I think is way more realistic than anything else we could have gotten. And I really respect the work he did in that. And I hope that a lot of other people out there are looking at him right now, because he's one of those ones that I would apply best of his generation thus far. I think he is phenomenal.
I thought he was very good. I do think he was more of a supporting actor, but I also straight up what Logan Marshall Green did with his body is freaking insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
I agree.
I love it. I can't get enough of it. I'll watch that movie forever and ever and ever. I also, if we did do supporting categories, it would have been Nicolas Cage and Mandy.
Also a great pick. All right. No time to waste. Director. I'm going John Krasinski, again, for similar reasons that I picked A Quiet Place for screenplay. This is just one of those movies where if one teeny tiny element does not work, the whole illusion falls apart, and he has such a clear handle on every single piece of that production where he was able to see it through to the finish in the strongest way possible. And when you look at the chemistry that he obviously has with Emily Blunt, but also with the kids here, it feels like such a real family. You never forget what happens at the beginning of the movie all the way through. The tension is through the roof from start to finish. John Krasinski is an excellent director.
Yes, good pick. Not mine.
I know who yours is.
Yes, you
or
do.
I could guess.
Yes, it's Luca. Of course it's Luca. That man has a direct freaking line to my heart and my soul, and he just rips me apart and just yanks it all over the place. It's amazing. His work just resonates with me. I think that, again, like I said with Tom York and his score, he had to build something so completely individual to something that was already so iconic, and in doing so did not play from any playbook other than kind of... No, he did. He pulled from art, more than I feel like filmmaking. He pulled from the playbook of physical artists and dance artists and painters, and I'm blown away by what he created with it. And I've said this all a million times before, so I will stop there and just say that I also want to highlight, of course, Ari Aster, who did an unbelievable directorial debut.
Coralie Farragut.
That was my next one I was just going to say.
I knew it.
And Panos Cosmatos.
Yes.
Mandy. Beautiful.
Okay. All good shout outs there. And that brings us to our best picture pick. How about I guess yours and you guess mine? I'll guess yours and say it's Suspiria.
Yes.
And what do you think? Well, you know what mine is because I put it on the stupid Google Doc.
I don't actually remember, and I'm not sure if...
I know what you probably think I went with, which now I'm probably tipping you off a little.
Well, your favorite movie was Halloween, but did you pick A Quiet Place?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Yeah. So my favorite movie is Halloween, but in assessing craftsmanship, I do think that A Quiet Place is on a slightly higher level here. And as much as I adore Halloween, and that is the movie that I will rewatch time and time again, more so than A Quiet Place, going back to what I said about John Krasinski, the fact that we got an original film that just kind of blew past expectations and created this craze around it, and also the effect that it had on a room full of people watching a movie. I will never forget sitting down for that screening and how the air was just sucked out of that room, and that whole room was dead silent unless there was a scare that got an audible reaction from the crowd. And even when that happened, you could feel everybody around you. Oh, I audibly reacted. I have to bottle it all back in or it's going to come and get me. I think that reaction, that communal reaction all on its own is really deserving of some serious recognition here. And I hope they can achieve something similar when we see A Quiet Place 2 in 2020.
Yeah, I hope thought so too. Yes, and Suspiria, for all the many, many reasons I've said many times, is, I think, a masterpiece, a work of true art. It blends, as I just mentioned, art. It takes on history. It tackles the human condition. It is phenomenal and philosophical, and I will never recover from it probably, but not like Hereditary, like in a nice way, like it changed me and it's good, whereas Hereditary is like, no, I'm just not going to recover.
Watching Hereditary a second time definitely made me find the story and the material even more off-putting than I found it the first time, but it also made me appreciate the craft and the certain elements that I've highlighted thus far even more than I did the first time. So we got both sides of that working at the same time, a little too hot.
I would say, like, and if we opened the conversation of what counts as horror more, which I could make an argument for this, I still would have gone with Suspiria, but a number of categories might have been different if I made the argument for First Reform being a horror movie.
Mine wouldn't have, to be completely honest. But that's just me. And I seem to be in the minority with folks who have seen that movie. But there was a little bit of a disconnect for me that I never really got over.
I know. You and I just have very different tastes.
We do have very different tastes. I feel like you could have predicted that I wouldn't have loved that movie quite that much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.